right, America, you know what time it is right here on KAZ Radio, Cleveland's online inspiration station. We took a 2-week hiatus, but they're back right here every Sunday at 3. But we're doing a show at 2 for a special person, none other than my friend Frazier, Mansfield Frazier. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Lady D, take it away.
Hey, welcome back, Cleveland. We are live here, KAZ Internet Radio. You're with Sir John and Lady D. We have a special guest in the house, Mr. Mansfield Frazier. I'm quite sure everybody in Cleveland, if you don't know him, you're going to know him today. Welcome, Mansfield.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. How you feeling this morning?
I'm great.
This afternoon.
How is everybody feeling this morning?
Yeah, we're lucky to be here, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got good weather.
Yeah, wonderful weather.
Yeah, and the Browns are out
Motorcycle
there.
weather.
Yeah. Well, Mansfield has a motorcycle.
Yeah.
He be
Browns
riding.
and Indians playing, so it's a good day.
Yeah, good day in Cleveland. Well, Mansfield, I understand that you are running. You're doing something here in Cleveland, and you're running for councilman in your ward.
Yeah, I'm running for City Council in Ward 7.
Okay, tell us all about it. Tell us about you, first of all.
Well, I'm a journalist by profession, and I have a radio show on WTAM. I'm off the air. You can't be on the radio and run for office.
Okay.
So I'm on temporary leave until after the election.
Okay.
Then I'll go back on the air. I have a Sunday night radio show that I've been doing for about 3.5 years. But I've been writing for the last 20 years. I started writing when I was in federal prison. I wrote a book entitled From Behind the Wall. And 1995, I got out of prison and managed to land a job in journalism, and that's what I've been doing ever since. But I also, we built the Vineyard. We have a nonprofit organization that services people coming out of incarceration, and we saw an opportunity to build a project so that we could hire young people, and so we built the Vineyard right in the middle of Huff, right on 66 and Huff, and we just completed our winery. We had the vineyard for 7 years, and we were making the wine off-site, but now we have the winery on-site.
Okay.
And we just finished our last permitting process, our last application process. So, but it's a dry precinct, so the voters on Tuesday will vote whether they will allow us to sell wine there.
Okay.
And so it has to go to the voters
voters
in the precinct. But it's called a local option.
Okay.
We're pretty sure that that'll pass.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to have wine tastings. The grapes are almost ready, so we have to pick grapes in a week or so.
Okay.
But we're looking forward. It's an exciting time for us in the
That's
Vineyard.
excellent. Excellent.
Awesome. What made you decide to run for your ward? What was the catalyst to say, yeah, I'm going to do this?
What, run for office?
Yeah.
Well, because the current councilman, T.J. Dow, has just not paid attention to the ward. He's been in office seven years, and he started off okay, but the last 4 or 5 years he just hasn't paid attention to the ward, and so hasn't been any development. And like I tell people, part of it's personal, because if the ward is developed properly, then the value of my home goes up. So he's hurting everybody's property values by not doing development right, not responding to residents, and therefore we all are suffering, and we're tired of it. And there's 6 people in the race, and there's 4 other candidates, Dow and myself. If I thought any of the other 4 candidates could beat Dow, I wouldn't have got in the race. But I just don't think they have either the experience or the expertise to win. And so I got in the race. And so far, I've gotten every endorsement from the Plain Dealer, the SEIU, both locals, the Stonewall Democrats, the Cleveland Progressive, Cuyahoga County Progressive Caucus, the Cleveland Teachers Union just endorsed me a couple of days ago. So
That's great.
I've garnered every endorsement, except of course from the Democratic Party, because they always endorse the incumbent,
Right.
no matter how bad they are.
Okay.
But I'm proud that the plain dealer, because people thought because of the fact that I've been incarcerated that the plain dealer wouldn't endorse me, but they did. And actually, I looked at the paper today. My race is the only one in which they endorsed someone other than the incumbent. Mm-hmm.
That is
Wow.
Which is very rare. Mm-hmm.
That is really awesome.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, just reading over things, and finding out about the vineyard and how it's, it's geared towards people coming from, incarceration, also at-risk youth.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some kind of mentorship program as well? And
Well, it's all about mentorship, but our view is real simple. There's a lot of people that said they mentor, but if you're not giving young people a paycheck, you're just running your mouth. Mentoring without paying them, they got to eat. Their biggest problem is that they're broke.
Right.
And you can have all the mentoring programs in the work. They'll listen, but then they're just as broke when you're through mentoring.
Right.
So we mentor and give paychecks.
right, because
We
saw that
pay
you
our
said,
people.
offering economic opportunity is the biggest way to get at-risk youth and, back into the,
Well,
part of society.
You have to be able to keep their attention. You have to be able to solve their financial needs so that the majority of crime, virtually all crime, is financially based. There can be some crimes that are crimes of passion. A guy could kill his wife, a wife kill a husband, and they could be millionaires. That's an emotional crime.
Mm-hmm.
But 99% of the crime in America is based off of finances.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless you solve poverty, you're never going to solve crime. And
makes
so our
sense.
goal is to solve poverty. So that's why we built a vineyard. Now that we will have a license and we'll be able to sell wine, we plan to open more vineyards, because the vineyard that we have only produces about 1,000 bottles of wine, which is not very much.
Okay.
But we'd love to build vineyards all over the east side. Well, not all over the east side. Certain parts of the east side, grapes won't grow very well.
Right.
Any part that's close to the lake.
Okay.
And what makes that difference?
Well, because the sun, all of, say, up from the lake over to Carnegie, that all used to be Lake Erie at one time, thousands of years ago. So the soil is sandy.
Oh, okay.
But once you start going up, like going up Carnegie, going up Fair Hill, all of that, going up Kinsman at 93rd, all of that soil turned underneath there is clay. Actually, that's the foothill of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
So you can't grow grapes in clay soil, so you need sandy soil.
Okay, I see. So what is it that you would, what is it that you are going to do or looking to do for your ward that is not being done?
Well, it's a large, diverse ward. It goes from the east at the site center there on Chester, 101st and Chester. It goes east down to Reserve Square. Reserve Square is in the ward, and the building Chesterfield, now called Sphere, but that building, actually the Union Club over on Euclid and 12th Street, that's the end of the ward right there. The Union Club is actually in the ward. So it's a large, diverse ward that has a diverse population with a lot of different needs. One of the things we want to focus on are people that are most at risk, and that's the seniors, to develop programming to help seniors. We hear a lot about food deserts. That's a term that actually some researchers at Case Western Reserve, I think they coined the term food deserts.
Okay.
And I tend to disagree about how much there are food deserts. There's transportation issues. Very few neighborhoods have, let's say if you live in Solon or Twinsburg or Westlake, you can't walk to a grocery store.
You can't.
Right.
You have to get in your car and drive.
Right.
So if people can't get to a grocery store, it's not because the grocery store isn't close enough. It's because they don't have transportation to get there. So one of the things that I want to do is to figure out a way, and it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, to start a free Uber type service for our seniors, for disadvantaged people with disabilities, for seniors and for mothers with small children. They should be able to pick up a phone or go on their device, and within 2 or 3 minutes, a private car comes and takes them where they need to go. And it would solve not only them going to get food, but it would also solve the issue of getting to the doctor, getting to doctor appointments, getting to meetings. Like there's community meetings some seniors would like to go to, but in the winter when it's it's dark at 6:30, 7 o'clock,
Nobody wants to come out.
they don't want to come out if they got to ride the bus. And I know that public transportation offers some.
I was going to
options.
ask that.
Well, they offer options, but you're waiting forever for it. It's not very dependable. There's one service that takes people to doctor's appointment, and then they wait 2 or 3 hours before they can come home. They're not very efficient at all because they view these as poor people that we don't have to provide standard service for.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to have as good a service as anybody else, that within 3 to 5 minutes there's a vehicle to take them where they need to go. Now, the biggest opposition will probably come from RTA, who wants to keep a monopoly on that type of public transportation.
Okay.
But they're not going to improve.
But
to
if
the
they're not
level.
improving or providing the service,
Then I would like to find an option and endow. And people say, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, there are a lot of institutions that want to do business in Ward 7.
Okay.
Upper Chester is probably some of the most valuable land in the county, where they're building the dental school.
Mm-hmm.
They built an apartment building in Novia for students at the dental school. All of that, we're right at Cleveland Clinic's front door. 93rd is Cleveland Clinic's front door. To the east is University Hospitals. They're building a new women's and children's medical clinic on 57th, between 57th and 59th, off of Euclid. That's in the ward. Dave's is building a new supermarket there. Large institutions are land hungry. They have to be. They either have to expand or eventually they die. So
Right.
they always are seeking to expand. And there's a concern about gentrification, about the land in Ward 7 being taken by these large institutions in unfair manners, or people being priced out. So you have to guard against that. But we have some people in the ward who just are so afraid of these institutions that all we want to do is slam the door and say, no, we're not going to deal with you, we're not going to negotiate. And you lose when you do that.
Okay.
You can only slam the door so hard, they're going to bust the door down and you get nothing. There's a way of dealing with large institutions to bring them to the table to negotiate in a fair manner. But you have to have reasonable projects that you want funded, and you have to deal in an open and honest manner.
way.
And that hasn't happened under the current councilman.
I see.
So, a question me and Larry were just talking about. What do you feel about the mayoral race?
I'm not running for mayor.
I know.
So
What do
I
you
have
think
to-
about Frank Jackson?
I'm not running
Staying
for
in
mayor.
there.
I'm not running for mayor.
Good answer.
Yeah. I'm not running for mayor.
Okay, so the other people that are running in this ward, what are they bringing to the table? Do you know? Have you all sat and
And had
talked?
a debate or something?
We've had 4 debates,
Okay.
Okay.
and they always refer to what I say. They listen to what I say and then they repeat it.
Okay. Okay.
Because most of them are young, they're inexperienced,
Right.
and I've just done more. Daniel Graves is a fine young man. He was raised in the ward. He lives in the ward.
He's a good guy.
He went to a private Christian Seventh-day Adventist boarding school for his education down near Columbus, and he teaches at a Christian school out on Lee Road. He teaches fourth grade. I think the world of Daniel. Daniel's 26, look like he's going on 12. And he has some great ideas, but practicality of some of them. When I got out of prison, I started working at a newspaper, and one of my first assignments was to cover City Hall. So I've known my way around City Halls for the last 22 years.
Okay.
I just, almost longer than he's been alive. So I know all of the councilmen. I know everybody at City Hall. I have great relations. A couple, I don't have great relations. 100%, about 98% of the people.
Yeah, right.
And I just have been concentrating on the problems of inner city residents. My wife and I built a home in Huff almost 18 years ago. At the time, we could have built the home anywhere we wanted in the county. The market was that good. We had the money then. We could have built from Westlake to Soling to Hunting Valley. We chose to live in Huff because we did not want to be what's called arm's length liberal. We didn't want to live in Soling and go back down to help the poor people in Huff. We wanted to live where the problem was. And so we've been working on the problem, and I've been writing about it. I'm a journalist. Everything that I talk about, you can go back and find the column that I've written about it at some time in the past. So I've just had more time to think about it, to talk to people who really know what solutions are viable. And some people laugh, say, boy, you'll never get them to fund a free Uber. I'll get close to it because it's not as difficult as people make it seem. So that's for seniors. For young people, we need to start something. The biggest concern in any community, and no matter where you are, people live in gated communities in Westlake because they're concerned about what? Crime.
Right.
So obviously, Huff is not a gated community. The East Side communities, where there's more poverty, there's more crime. And you'll hear politicians say we need to increase the police department. And I'm all for that. But you're not going to police your way out of crime. You can't put a cop on every corner. Your street light cameras, they just move out of the range of the street light cameras and do their deals. And all of that is preventative. That comes, arresting somebody, the horse has already left the barn. How do you stop the crime from happening? And the way you stop the crime from happening is what we do by giving them a job. But more than that, you have to start when, and people don't want to hear it because it's a long process, but Jeffrey Canada at the Harlem Children's Zone in New York has the only real long-term answer, is that he takes teenage mothers when they're pregnant, they get in this program. He has what's called baby college. He shows them, they take dolls, he shows them how to put diapers on dolls. So when their baby comes, they know how to, he makes them, shows them how to eat well, so that nutritious eating, so they have healthy child. Then from day one, from the day that child is born, they mentor what they're doing. They're raising the child and the parent at the same time. They show the mother the proper way to raise a child. And guess what? He's been doing it for just about 20 years, and his college rate is like 89% of the young men, and it's 13,000 people in the program.
That is
almost
awesome.
All of these. Well, it's like it's any other child. If you give them proper training from day one, what we do as a society, what we wait until,
like you said, the horse left the barn.
Well, or we wait until a young person
There's a problem.
Made a mistake.
Well, yeah, we wait until we're not concerned about them until they're big enough to hurt us.
Right.
Once they're big enough to pick up a knife, a gun, or a baseball bat, Ray got a problem. Well, he had a problem the day he was born. So if you're going to solve the problems, you have to solve it before it becomes a problem. So we have to start at the beginning of life and help mothers raise children so that they go to college instead of prison. But those are long-term solutions. We live in a society, we want instant gratification. We want to take shortcuts. We want to somebody to solve the problem instantly. Well, the only instant way to solve the problem of youth violence and youth gangs and youth killings in our community, we have to lock some of these young men up.
Right.
And
that's not a solution.
Well, it's a solution.
Because it's a solution, but it's a solution that it's a short term. But it costs too much.
Well, society will pay the cost of it, but if we do it right, we won't have to bear the cost of it. But you can, what you do is you.
Well, that's extra taxes.
Yeah, well,
most people ain't gonna go for that.
Well, you never heard them. You've never heard them say we can't afford to put somebody in prison, and you never will. They'll find a bed for them somewhere, and they'll build more prisons. They never balk at locking up young people. Never.
I am so very impressed with what you're doing on 66 and Huff with this winery and the facility there that you have. I think you're on the right track because that winery and just the architecture and the vines growing. There could be selling of dope and everything on that corner, but instead there's life on that corner. There's new construction on that corner. And dope boys and dope dealers ain't gonna hang around those kind of areas. You see that all through Prospect Avenue. It used to be really bad. When they cleaned it up, put up some street lights, cleaned up the brownstones, now you don't see any kind of activity like that. What you're doing, I think, is great, and I love the vision of having something like this throughout the city. Because now, like you said, people can go to work, they're doing something productive, but you also mentioned to me, I don't know if you remember this or not, but when I first met you, and I was so impressed with your winery, you said another thing that can be grown is hops. Hops can be grown in this kind of soil. To tell our audience a little bit more about that and what kind of plans you have for that, if any.
Okay, but let me explain what we did on that corner. Yes, it's being replicated on other corners, but unless we solve the problem, all we're doing is shifting the crime to another part of the ward. Right. Make no mistake, we're not solving the crime problem. It won't happen on my corner, but it'll happen on the next corner if I don't solve the problem of poverty. And that's why and this is stopgap. This is for kids who dropped out of the learning process, who don't have skills. We try to give them the soft skills. So there's a number of new craft breweries that's opened up. They opened up all across the country. There's probably been 3 opened in Cleveland in the last year. Masthead is the most recent, right down on 13th and Superior.
Right.
Okay.
My friend owns one at 55th and near St. Clair, Goldhorn. Well, there's been so many craft breweries opened up, and they all have to have hops to make beer. Okay. And so there's a worldwide shortage of hops. So people say, why don't you grow bell peppers? There's a glut of bell peppers. There's a guy out somewhere not far from here, probably got 1,000 acres of bell peppers. And I can't grow them in small amounts. You can grow hops on 1 acre sites, and there's an acute demand. So my thing is, why would I want to grow the crop that there's a demand for now. And the advantage of growing hops is that my vineyard, my grapes are never touched. Nobody bothers them, and I won't put a fence around it. But if I were to put another vineyard in, say, half-mile away, in a tucked away area, somebody could come and eat all my grapes, take all my grapes from there.
Right.
Hops, that won't happen with. Nobody knows what they are. If they see them, they won't know what they are. And if you eat a hop, it'll make you sick.
Yeah.
They have to be processed before they're any good. So hops are a perfect crop that they don't take netting like my vines. I have to put netting to keep the birds off. Hops are easier to grow. They're subject to some some crop diseases, powdery mildew, and a couple other things. But we're good enough farmers. We know how to control for that, and we can sell all the hops we can raise. So we see it as another way of employing our young people in our own community
And
to grow hops.
Would that be something if you get elected?
Pardon?
If you get elected, will that be something you be pushing more for across the city? People who have urban farming, that's something they aspire to do?
Well, no, some people would just rather grow crops, but for me, urban farming by and large is a romantic notion.
Mm-hmm.
People, they can grow enough crops to feed themselves. You can never make a business out of it. It's impossible to do urban farming on a scale that creates a job. Can't be done. Totally can't be done. So, I would push to have hops. The key, though, you have to understand these, just like my vineyard, it's expensive to put those kind of installations in, and you have to take care of them for 3 years before you get a crop. Okay. So at $20,000 per acre to install it, I was able to get grants to install my vineyard. I want to get with some craft brewers, so they actually would help partner and own the lot and help with that $20,000 installation cost.
Okay.
And then we could employ people to take care of them for the first 3 years. I have to be able to cut paychecks for 3 years before I get a dime back.
Okay.
So that's why you don't see it done on a smaller scale like I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The initial investment, and you don't see venture capitalists venture capitalists are building huge hop farms up in Michigan. You won't see them come into inner city neighborhoods and put up any money to help, because they know it takes venture capital or the philanthropic community or the brewery owners to help ameliorate the initial costs of putting those kind of projects in.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's really interesting. Wow.
So what about medical marijuana? What do you think about that as a just open up a wider for me so that rallies up. So what do you think about medical marijuana being grown in local neighborhoods? I'm serious.
Well, no,
it's legal.
Yeah, the building that you flashed on the screen, the building that we built, when they asked me when they showed me the blueprints and asked if I could build it, I immediately said, after looking at them, I said yes, because that's the perfect place to grow marijuana.
Okay.
That's why I built that facility.
Wow.
In case they legalize it, they didn't legalize it in the right way. I didn't think they would. I was hopeful that they would. What should happen is that there should be facilities like that throughout neighborhoods, say one in each neighborhood. That would be the one for Huff. The state would regulate all of the product, tag every plant and trace it, make sure they got their taxes off of it, but the marijuana would only be sold in that neighborhood, because we're in medical marijuana now. They're going to totally legalize marijuana at some point.
Right.
And the biggest fear, and it's starting to happen, is that large corporations are going to own all of it. It should be owned by communities.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in decriminalization.
Now, I noticed on the other side of this building, when I went to visit, it looks like you have some sort of solar panels or something, or going to have solar panels.
Well, we have 6 solar panels on the backside. Yeah.
Okay, and that's another benefit as far as energy. I mean, I think this is just I think it's just innovative. I think it's great.
The other thing, you can't see it there, we have a wind turbine also.
Oh, wow.
Really? Mm-hmm. So how many acres of land do you have here
In total there's about 3 acres.
3 acres.
Mm.
Wow.
In total.
And how many people have you employed? How many employees do you have working for you now?
According to what time of the year, right now we only have 3, but at various times it goes up and down. That's one of the other part of getting funding for agricultural ventures. It's seasonal, and they don't. Funders don't like
seasonal.
They don't like funding things that are seasonal. It's not full time 52-week employment. We
Okay.
can't offer that.
Okay.
Now, I can for 1 or 2 of my employees. I keep them busy otherwise. But we've had over about 55 guys come through our program, many coming straight out of the halfway house or from juvenile incarceration. And we tell them from the beginning, this is part-time.